depumpkinized.
We'll call the Count and Finance Committee meeting to order on October 12th at 4 p.m. And I understand we have two items on the agenda, the 5-year financing plans and salaries. Is that correct?
I'm asking the salary to be put into closed session if you're going to discuss it tonight, because it does imply individual salaries as a result of Mr. Ostrander departure.
Okay.
And these would be individual persons and not a general across-the-board policy raise, and I would like to discuss that first in closed session here if you choose to, and we have a police and employment committee scheduled for Monday at 6 o'clock.
Why don't we do that?
Do you have any objections?
No.
Okay, then we'll do that. We'll do that after the finance. We'll do that second item
That's
closed.
what I was gonna say.
Okay.
And we received hot off the press within the past 20 minutes, Tessie's proposed check writing policy.
Okay.
If you'd like to take a look at that, and
Do we have a copy of that?
Yes.
We do? Okay. All right, we'll put that as check writing policy be the second item. Do you have any objections, Mr. Moncur?
I have no problem.
Check writing policy, is that what it is?
I think council had instructed Tessie to come up with a policy. It originated here in the finance committee.
And we tabled it, waiting for,
And
Right.
Tessie, literally, while Sam was sitting in the office a few minutes ago, it showed up. And,
What about the bad check policy?
That's it.
Is that what it is? Okay, that's fine. All right, I'll turn the floor over to you, Mr. Manager, with the
all right,
financing plan.
I don't think we need to read everything in here, but I do want to bring out the points. If you want a copy, they're available to you. Financing plan. Okay. We promised a 5-year plan. I think we're pretty close to 5, but I think I'm a little light on recommendations simply because, and the recommendations are on the last page, I think I'm a little light on recommendations because what we're going to try to accomplish between reserve funds and depreciation funds is going to be pretty daunting over the next 3 or 4 years as it is, okay? Trying to establish planning for future utilities and capital projects, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know if there needs to be a huge number of recommendations because I think they're pretty big to start with.
If we do what's in there can't be a huge amount of it.
There ain't much left to recommend you to have a lot of flexibility on. So, financing plan. We talked a little bit about this the other night with the towns, I think on that continued meeting on October 4th. And I'm not going to rehash the 14 and 15 and 16 comments that are in there, but the new comments I will read to you. On or about May 1st, 2019, town scheduled to make a $22,167 payment to VML Vaco. This is a 2009 bond and is debt which began with an initial obligation of $2,283,000. The annual obligation which will retire with this payment is $266,000. Please remember I rounded these numbers up. This bond, when paid, will satisfy the outstanding balance of the construction of the Harris Medical Center. Okay. So there's approximately $266,000 of expenditure. I can't tell you the exact revenues because we still need to get Bon Secours straight, but it looks like you'll have a decrease of $266,000 in expenditures during the course of the year.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that because it was a pass-through. So it's not like it's new money. You know, I love it, new money or found money.
But you don't have to
But
make
you're
that
not paying it
expenditure.
out, but we don't have it coming in and offsetting it, debits and credits. So, all right, I want to interrupt you a moment if you don't mind. Where are we on negotiating the lease?
No farther along than we were last time we talked in one of our council meetings. Just haven't heard anything back from them. Now, we're still a year plus away from having to finalize this.
Excuse me just a moment. Mr. Nash will be joining us just in a few moments. The clerk has just informed me. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No further than we were October 4th, I think, when we talked about it last time, when we had the Armory folks come and talk to us. We still have plenty of time. January,
It's urgency. It's just curiosity.
I just don't have an answer beyond what I've already got.
Okay. When do you feel like it's that issue? Is
January, that'll give us a year to resolve. and
January is our
If we're not making progress in January, we're probably getting late.
okay.
We need to be making progress, at least talking and meeting and coming up with a framework of what we want to try to accomplish
Okay.
with Bon Secours.
Okay. I'm sorry
No
to
problem.
sidetrack you there, but I'm glad to hear that report. Carry on, sir.
On or about August 1st, 2019, the town scheduled to make a $27,000, $27,541 payment to the Virginia Resource Authority. The bonded debt is used for improvements to the town's wastewater plant. When we first took the plant over in the late 90s, that was the town's contribution to the upgrade, and began with an initial principal of $1,210,750. Annual obligation, which will retire, is $55,082
Yearly, annually. That's
annually. Two payments of 27 and change.
Okay.
So if you go down to the next, spread sheet portion of this, it says the town of Blackstone's total bonded debt obligations, and I used October 1st, 2017, just so I had a benchmark date of October 1st, 2017, are as follows. You will still owe $110,164, which is 2 years of $55,000. You will have a 2002 wastewater collection system upgrade. The principal amount, $206,311, and that's a 0% interest deal. The 2009 Harris Medical Center, you still owe $272,665 in principal, and interest is $148,485. The wastewater consent order project, which is the one that started shortly after I got here over in College Brunswick area, was a 0% deal, and it started, the principal as of October 1st, 2017 is $2,221,065. Our first payment, I believe, was in September of 2014, even though we closed the bond in 2012. If you remember, we refinanced the water treatment plant. We owe principal $4,765,000, and interest on that deal was that's Carter Bank, if I'm not mistaken.
3% at Carter Bank, isn't it?
3% fixed at
Fixed.
Carter Bank. That's right.
Fixed, right.
That's it. And then the 2016 deal is with Hancock Whitney Bank, and that's the one we still have the majority of the proceeds still sitting in the bank, and we're waiting on drawings and that sort of thing.
That was a favorable rate too, wasn't it?
It was less than 2.5. I think it was 2.4%. That deal is $2,304,500 as of October 1st, because we have made some payments on that thing already, and the interest is $584,580. For the record, the town's debt, bonded debt, as of October 1st, 2017, is $9,879,705, and the interest, if we amortize this thing all the way out and make the payments as scheduled and nothing early, $2,126,505.
Well,
About $12 million in debt.
It's $12 million, and I mean, there's no other way of looking at it unless you've got, Bill Gates walking the door and says, "I love Blackstone." I mean, we owe $12 million. We don't have the capability of paying it off. So
I used October 1st, 2019 as the benchmark because that will be after that 98 bond deal is paid. Okay.
Right. That's two of the six will be gone.
Medical Center and the 1998 wastewater will be paid. So the
you're
principal
still
on
looking at-
October 1st, 2019, assuming we make payments as scheduled, is principal $8,487,946, and interest is $1,589,114.
Over 10 million.
That's 11, yeah.
Yeah.
9, 10, excuse me, over $10 million, not quite 11. We have a lot of, I can't say we have an inordinate number, but we have a significant number of leases specifically with USDA, and I think all of these are USDA deals. And the monthly payments are shown, the interest rates are shown. You can see when the debts are paid, and we did pay one off this year, if I'm not mistaken, which would be the first 2 police cars that we did. So we have taken one of these issues off the loan or offline. The balance of all the loan and leases that the town has, and these are all USDA deals, $212,741, and that's assuming we pay them with the full amortization schedule. All right.
All right, I have a comment, and before you go any further, I just want to compliment you and the staff and the finance committee for doing what we've done with 2 hands tied behind our back. To get to the point that you've got the undesignated reserves and you segregated accounts, and I mean, I think we shouted that from the mountaintop. But I don't think people realize that you were fighting this headwind as we've gotten to a position that we're a viable creditor now, you know.
People want us money.
People will lend us money, so.
Virginia Resources
I just wanted to
already-
throw that in. I'm, this is so far, this is a very good document. I would like, while I've sort of derailed you here,
All right.
would you be so kind as to hand deliver this to the other 4 members of council? So they would, when's our council package going out?
Probably tomorrow morning.
Will you include this in the council package?
I will.
So that they'll have time to digest this, because this is really, really good information.
This is a
Well put together.
layman's
Got Jennifer Hardy
audit.
written all over, doesn't it?
I think
Huh?
I would keep this separate from the packet,
Yes,
so people will sit down and
yes,
read it.
yes, that's what I'm talking about.
And not lump it in with something that they may not get read as well.
What we said in high school was Jim clip it. Use a Jim clip. That's what we called paper clip.
this is a layman's audit.
Right.
All right. You know, the auditors have accounting, and how do we put this is for people like me. They're cash folks. Well, how much do we owe? And so if we go back to look at our reserves, we talked about this a little bit the other day. And if you look at our town's general fund, we're still using the 15%, and our general fund grew slightly since 2014-15. And so the general fund, 15% should be the general fund reserve, $1,059,000, and we have truly undesignated as of October 1st, $1 million there. It's not set aside for roads or
That's close
grants or
enough
nothing.
That's close enough for government work.
We'll get there. Yeah, we'll come back and touch it up, but I left it at $1 million because we've really been chopping away at this electric fund recently.
Mr. Chairman, at the risk of ruining my reputation, I'd like to tell Philip he did a good job.
Well, it looks like it's got Jennifer Hardy written all over to me.
She did give me a lot of the numbers for this
I
thing.
didn't want some people to get a swell in.
Well, it's, yes, we are going in the right direction. I'm just glad to be right, you know. A lot of the council activities, I feel like a hubcap. You go around the corner and I fall off, but this was one I got to sit in the front seat.
This is
And,
easy, I hope easy to understand for
I'm very
everybody.
proud of what we've done. But,
Undesignated electric reserve figure as of October 1st, 2017. And believe it or not, our electric budget has gone down slightly since 2014. Instead of 1.5 million, the portion of the reserve fund should be $1,480,050. That's using 100 days of operating expense. And as of October 1st, the electric reserve fund is $552,000. Water and sewer, remember Roland Cooch wanted 180 days. We'd recommend the 120, and when he was here last time, he said that seems a little low. I would go up to 1.2 million. And the 2018, the water sewer fund is 2.5 million, approximately 2,524,000. Target amount 1,262,000. And after we paid that monstrous bond payment in August, we had $123,000 left in there.
let's talk about that for a moment. When are we going to, you know, what should have been done, in my opinion, when the money was borrowed the first time, it should have been baked in the rates. It should have been part of the ingredients. And so the way I'm looking at it, I don't think you're ever going to fund this reserve account, and that's where most of your liability is. Is that correct?
The majority of our depreciation and the cost or the expense of our debt, depreciation costs, water and sewer. Electric is larger, it's $4 million or thereabouts, but your physical plant is worth a whole lot less because you only depreciate about 25% of what you do depreciate water and sewer, and you have no bonded debt in the electric department.
So
It's going to take a while.
After I'm not trying to banter with you, Mr. Manager, but after you pay this bond off, then you would have, you'd have 123 or 286?
286 was the payment.
Okay, so you have
After the-
123 left, and basically, let's be honest, that's 123 towards that mammoth payment again. Is that?
Well, yeah,
It's
I
not a
mean-
line item budget. I mean, it's
If we
not-
didn't put anything else in there, that's what we would use it
That's
for.
what you'd use it for, and whatever, probably have to raid the general fund. So I know it might not be popular, but we have to set aside some funds to make that payment. I mean,
If we had to come out with $285,000 a year out of the checking account, we would stumble. I can tell you, there's not 285 left at the end of the month for us to sit back and say, "Oh, we got enough for the payment." We just save our shekels every month for 12 months, and then
I'm not
pay.
advocating raising rates. I say they should have been raised, 20 years ago? When
It would have
we wouldn't be
been
talking about it.
It would have been easier if they had earmarked
But
how
I'm
much it was
saying
going to
if we, some way,
Mm-hmm.
you need to have at least $1 million in there after you pay the payment. And then have a.
Oh, you need to have $1.2 million
Well, then
after you make the
that's-
payment.
So it sounds like you're on the right path with the electric fund, but we're doing a horrible job with the water and sewer fund. Am I correct?
We're at 10% on the
Okay.
water and sewer fund.
This just shows that we got another 5 years worth of work to do. Anyway,
We're at 30% or 33% on the electric, and we're 10% on the water and sewer. That's the facts. That's where we're at.
Well, you really not. I beg to differ with you. You don't have any water and sewer reserve because
Until the payment's made.
Because this $123,000 already earmarked toward that payment, technically.
If we don't collect, yeah, it's in the same pot. Now, what Jennifer and I are going to start working on is in our electric or our water and sewer reserve fund, we want a little better figure of what is reserve and what is payment. And we want to start chipping away a little bit every month when we put our contributions in there and just say that's specific to reserve, that's specific to debt payment. And then take those debts that were obligated when rates were raised, starting with the 2012 deal, and have those payments coming out. And that way we'll know what it is. But we're going to do a little better job, I think, because it's hard for me to get my arms around water and sewer reserve.
No,
But
I'm looking back at what you're saying, and the 2014 water treatment plant refinance.
Mm-hmm.
That is such a monumental figure. I don't, and at 3%, I think we're almost stuck with it.
no, you're going to eat that thing. Yeah, you ain't going to do
I
no
don't
better.
see where we're going to have a miraculous way of paying that off early.
Well, I've got a recommendation in here,
Okay,
so
well, I'm just thinking that
we'll
if
get
we
to
could,
it.
I'm looking at all this interest we're paying, all this interest we're paying on garbage trucks and police trucks and fire trucks and all that stuff. We could eliminate that. You borrowed a garbage truck and paid cash for it, and then taxpayers not paying 3.5%.
Well, the problem with that is, and I agree, take you on your highest interest rate, I don't think USDA is really crazy about us paying off early because we cried poverty when they gave us the grant, and we qualified as an impoverished rural area to get the grant money because a lot of this had grant associated with it, and it's
Yeah,
not their recommendation to pay it off because we're not them
Well-
impoverished rural people anymore.
That's an oversight on my part. Thank you. I don't want to say that I'm defeated, but it's a fact that we're going to end up making this water plant payment for years to come. And if we don't have it, if you don't have a source of revenue to offset it, it could unravel everything you've worked so hard for.
You may just have to dip in reserves and make payments.
it's obvious at this point that now that we pretty well got the electric depreciation and the reserve set up, that we're gonna have to do the same thing that we did with it to the water. And if it means adding a line onto our tax bill depreciation, similar to any of the statewide utilities and the way and that's where they recoup their money and keep up with their maintenance. And we have not done that for years and years, and all we've done is borrow and borrow.
Well, I just throw this out here. I don't think we'd be indigenous by doing that. I believe that there are some local providers that show it as a line item on your bill, if I'm not mistaken.
Depreciation costs and, yeah.
So, all right.
Depreciation, all right? This is important, and this is separate from your reserve fund.
That's right.
Totally separate. Depreciation,
is money that you know you got to spend.
yeah, ultimately, you're gonna replace a water plant, or you're
So
gonna
it's
replace a
not
line.
truly
Reserve,
unrestricted.
correct.
So let me make sure if there's anyone listening and if it wants to reflect in the minutes. So what we're saying is depreciation is the funds to replace infrastructure.
Replace water lines and sewer
water
lines and
lines, sewer
such,
lines, or the plant,
or the plant.
then that you're making a, $600,000 contribution a year towards now
In debt?
in debt.
Yeah, I mean,
586, what is the payment?
that's just 286 is just one payment, but you've also got $67,000 a year twice, 27,000 a year twice.
Well, so
Ba, ba, ba.
my point is if we don't get out in front of depreciation, and people may not understand that, if we don't, we're going to end up
Borrowing
still
more money.
making that payment, and then take on another $400,000 when we have to do major upgrades or major repairs out there. So
Correct.
we I don't like the fact if whoever was sitting in these seats when they did this heinous deal with the U.S. government would have said, okay, well, we're going to amortize it for 15 years and we'll bake it into rates. We're done, over and done with. We wouldn't be talking about this payment. And if you kept the rates the same, you took that, let's say it's 6% or 4% or whatever X equals, you'd have that in depreciation. And then when it came time to buy a replacement pipe
Bucket truck.
or whatever, you pay cash for it. So
That's
what we need to
intention.
get across to the council, and we need to get across to that. Yes, you've gone from having I sat here and voted on a $600,000 line of credit to pay employees. And we talked about turning every other light bulb off. Really,
Yeah.
and we were also reconciling the checkbook every day with a journal entry. Okay, so we've come a long way,
Oh, yeah.
but we're still
We're on the parkway.
we've got our head above water and we're starting to swim now. Is what this is showing me. I mean, to a little bit deeper than I thought before. Carry on.
Draft FY17 audit, which we have, and I will note that Jennifer and Gwyneth, working together with the auditors, have no comments on the audit. And we're very pleased with the quality there. Yeah. The draft 17 audit of revenue funds and revenue funds are electric, water, and sewer, include expenses for annual depreciation. Electric fund depreciation in FY17 was $124,790. Water and sewer for FY17 was $658,210. If you remember, that's creeping up slowly but surely.
And we have no funds designated for that at all.
I don't have any, now, we have in the budget this year to put money inside in depreciation, but I can tell you what I'm doing. Every nickel that's left over at the end of the month is going to the electric reserve fund right now. Everything we got. Okay? We paid
You have
a,
addressed it budget-wise.
yeah, there's $51,000 in water or in electric, and I think there's an equivalent amount. I can pull it out, and
So,
or Jennifer may be able to recite
When
it.
could we see some appreciable
July 1.
figures here that we're going on the right way? July 1?
At the end of this budget year, I can commit to you that you'll have the budgeted depreciation figures, not necessarily the audited depreciation, but the budgeted depreciation figures.
Okay,
We'll have those in there July 1.
okay. All right.
All right.
Next item is unfunded liabilities.
This is something Mr. Moncure asked me to look for, and Jennifer and Sheila Minor had actually done much of this already, and I really just transcribed their figures. All funds for comp time and vacation, because those are the two things that we compensate when you leave the town, okay? 153,836 of liability. It was 240 when we first looked at this guy 4 or 5 years ago. Okay, so it has gone down a little bit. We had some high flyers, like in the police department, when we were understaffed. Those guys were, and then we capped it by personnel policy. If you remember, we put some caps on it, so when people were going to lose it, they were taking it. So you have people that aren't in the thousands of hours. We still have some high flyers in town staff, and I need to work on those, but they've been chipping away at it a little bit. So we're down about $90,000 from where we were about 4 or 5 years ago.
But we don't have any money.
Nothing. I don't have any money set aside for that.
it.
Nothing.
So you just have to, when someone like the treasurer or Mr. Ostrander leaves, and
You can dig it out of the checking account.
the general fund just eats it, right?
It's a good way to blow up a budget. If somebody had a bunch, and but yeah, you've got
You
two
might
long-time
do that.
employees. You're gonna pay out some significant comp, and it's gonna drop that 153 per significantly. All right.
Well, I think this should be a lesson that it needs to be something we address in this last budget we do together.
We've got a recommendation for you, okay? In 2015, the town of Blackstone initiated a study to determine the cost and priorities associated with the replacement of water distribution lines located within Fort Pickett. The study segregated the recommended work into 6 phases. The work is prioritized based on age and condition of distribution lines. That's the replacement. Now, recommendation number 1, Fast C, abandon 20% of the system out there. That's the first phase. The first 2 phases will be completed in conjunction with the water treatment plant repair and lines bond obligation and Fast C. Okay. The 5 remaining phases, you got 7 total phases. This is spelling error. I've got 6. It's actually 7 total phases. The 5 remaining phases are estimated to cost $16,198,994. That's the one that everybody, you scratch your head, and I don't know how to address that yet. I don't have a recommendation. I'm not really sure how to jump into that.
So at 3%, what did we refinance? Do you remember? And if
That total figure?
we refinanced it, what was it? Was it 6 million?
5565.
Yeah, 565. So, and that's annual debt service of 400 grand.
Between the 285 and then I think you got a 80, so
So 350.
350.
So that's a third of what your obligation out there is. So you're potentially looking at a $1 million debt service just to,
Replace that.
if you can get the money 3%.
If you can get it 3%, correct. It's a big boy.
Well, I mean, it's Herculean. I don't know where you'd raise $1 million. I mean,
And the post ain't crazy about paying any more than what they're paying, I can promise you. And the waters were tough. The sewer, man, you like to think that, boy, they gave us $4 million or $3 million when we started the plant, and they donated, easements and line, and they relined some of the water deal was just a different deal. Here's the plant, here's the lines, as is, take it and leave it, and the town had to borrow a bunch of money. The bond issue that's getting ready to be paid off in 2019, the water and sewer one, that's what the town spent on the wastewater system when they got it. This is $16 million. That was $1.2 million is what the town borrowed when they originally took the wastewater plant on.
well, help me out with this. Mr. Palmore, when I was fortunate enough to get on this council in 2006, I heard him begging and pleading with us about Brunswick Avenue. The Brunswick Avenue the sewer project, and said, he would constantly say, "We've got to address that. We've got to address this, or this is going to end up in an ugly consent order."
And it did.
And it did.
Yep.
So, what is the ugliest head you could rear out of this?
Well, I will say this is water. My first goal would be to increase the efforts to abandon instead of replace. How many areas at Pickett can we abandon? This is a straight up replacement other than the Fast C section. I would like to abandon more, but I don't think you can sit back and necessarily, and I've never been under consent order for water, but the problem with the consent order for water means you're producing bad water, and that's the same system that the town residents are drinking. This is not segregated system, these are connected. So getting somebody sick, I don't think you wait for a consent order to do that.
Well, this is kind of personal, and
Yep.
everybody keeps asking me, how in the world did you lose 62 pounds? Well, when Dr. Hall told me what was going to happen if I didn't, it really wasn't that difficult. You know what I'm saying? So this sounds like that 62 pounds, and if we don't do it, Tam's going to have a heart attack or either be a diabetic or the other things I was facing.
I don't believe
That's the
there's
way
a
I'm looking at it.
recommendation of any kind on how to tackle this just yet. I don't have anything written in here. Now, the committee and I and Jennifer, we can all sit here and put our heads together. Do we want to phase this thing? Do we want to have a 10-year plan to tackle this thing and do a
I
little
don't
bit
see
at
a
a time?
10-year plan. There's no 10-year plan to do this. There's no, a 10-year plan would be 1.5 million in debt service.
A year.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's no 10-year plan. You might have a 40-year plan that you better make great haste and get started on.
I don't quite know how to deal with it one. I think that Larry had intended on just hiring a crew.
Well,
They
we
have to go out
spoke
there and
of that.
repair lines.
We spoke of that, hiring a 4-man crew and just set them out there and say, guess what? You're lucky. You just got a municipal career. Because that's basically what it would be.
That's all you're gonna
You
do,
know?
is build water line and replace them.
So, but I'm just saying, I knew we had spoken of this issue 3 years ago in these chambers, in a committee meeting.
2015 was when the study was done.
So I think it's time that it's not getting any better. I mean, since I've been fortunate enough to sit in this seat, the engineering costs, no offense to the profession, but man, they're worse than lawyers. I mean, I've seen, so I know that these prices aren't going down. They're gonna go up. So we need to go ahead and maybe in the off season we ought to really look at tackling this problem, because it's not, this is not some fantasy or something that you just made up. It's reality, and it's the biggest headwind this town's faced maybe in its history.
Ever.
So, all right.
Heads up, $16+ million on that. Capital obligations, these are as requested. I haven't chopped these, cut these, included these. This is as requested by the departments, okay? You got street department, the majority of that, and I haven't gone into the future years, the majority of that number in the street department is for South Main Street, continuing on with South Main Street. Your board packet will include a revenue share request for about $900,000 on that. Water and sewer, that first year and the third year include East End. That's not all East End, but that includes East End. The first 2019 would be a bond obligation of about $1 million. 2021 would be a bond obligation of about $800,000. Electric department is a replacement of a bucket truck. It's the only thing that he has in there. Or not a bucket truck, excuse me, a digger derrick. The digger derrick we have now is not on its last leg. It's still kicking along. So I'm not anticipating buying one, but it's $185,000 when we do buy one. And it is 20 years old. We bought it when I was here the first time. Okay. Fire department, 2019 was a lot of painting and new bathrooms and things, an exhaust system in the bays for 2019. I think you know what 2020 is. That's 2 new fire trucks. As requested, not as approved, as requested.
Where are the air packs in here? Are they in that 2020 figure?
2020. Remember, we got till 2020 to do it, and we will just about have them funded by July. Just about, but not quite. All right. Police department, his is mostly car replacements. I think he's got some computer stuff in there and some new ballistic vests and things, but relatively small as compared. The bus system is just 4 new buses to be purchased. Garage department, the $100,000 is an expectation to try to build something when Mr. McCormick hopefully takes over our building, that we need a pole building to do recycling and all that. That's what that $100,000 is. And that was based on the original purchase price. And I don't know if that's the ultimate cost, but that was as David submitted.
Get off the subject here, and it might even be building and grounds, but anyway, when we get the possession of that property, if it's so zoned and everything goes through, can we work on across the street and take the surplus metal and take the garbage over to the bus shop and paint the roof of that place? I mean, here's my point. On one of my walks, I look, Dan and company, you know how much I think of that. That's the most efficient.
They leave some stuff laying around, pallets and such things.
No, I'm talking about they're on the street. They set up to start trimming on light poles, and you know how they're a top-notch professional looking bunch. They jumped out, 3 pieces of equipment, all of it new, awesome. The rest of my walk, I saw the 2 garbage trucks that looked new. They were taking care of them. Then I made that turn on Main Street and looked at that god-awful place. So can we move some of this out of plain sight and clean
We're
that up?
going to leave down the bottom. This is something David and I had talked about. What we're going to leave down the bottom is a dump truck. We want to leave enough there if we have an emergency. If we're not doing big projects. We're going to leave the backhoe, the small track hoe, and a dump truck down at the bottom, and everything we intend on moving back up to the...
All right. Well, I think if you go any further out than, when you get into 2022, I don't have a crystal ball. I wouldn't even discuss it. But, I mean, just looking at this at capital outlay, I'm guessing $6.5, $7 million.
As requested, yeah.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean you're going to
Now,
do
some of it you may be fortunate enough and get a fire truck or portion of a fire truck, but some of the stuff is hard cash.
Yeah, for example, that garage department, putting additional bays on that building down there, doing stuff like that, yeah, that's gonna be cash out of your kitty. Electric department, I don't think there's a grant for a digger derrick. I don't think you need to buy one immediately. It's 20 years old, so have an expectation to start planning for a digger derrick.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So I see now you have 5 recommendations. You want to present them to us? Or would you
Yeah.
rather wait and see if
No.
Mr. Nash shows up?
No, I'm not going to do it. Established October 1st, 2019 is the date that all reserve funds are fully funded. All reserve funds are fully funded. Establishes the primary goal of the 2 upcoming budgets for each fund. The remainder of fiscal year 18, all of fiscal year 19, and the first 3 months of 2020 should focus on the initiative. All right? You're almost 2 years of us putting money aside.
All right, I just initialed that one.
Included in the budget for the 5-year planning period, depreciation costs as reported in the annual audit. Although this may not be fully possible, it will improve cash position and eliminate need to continue financing maintenance and replacement.
Okay.
Beginning with the 2020 budget, contribute to each fund an amount that will establish a cash position equal to unfunded leave liability, accomplished by the end of 2023. Beginning in 2020, additional debt service payments to the water treatment plant, the 2014 water treatment plant refi, specifically used the $55,000 annual savings from the 98 issuance.
So that makes the interest payment, you still got the $269.
215, or reduce it all, but your savings are really going to be in the interest.
Right.
You're going to shave a couple years off this thing by doing that. Beginning in the 2020 budget, revenues from the medical center lease, beginning in fiscal year 2020, budget revenues from the medical center lease, and poor grammar here, into a capital reserve fund. This amount should be used for general fund capital needs. General fund capital needs, specifically public safety activities. You don't have to borrow to buy fire trucks. And if you look at where's your biggest capital improvement headache, where there's not a revenue to pay for it, it's fire trucks. Okay? You've got water to pay for water lines, hopefully. You got sewer to pay for sewer lines, electric to pay for electric. But what in the general fund is your biggest expense in capital activities? Fire trucks, fire department. The police department is a small nugget as compared.
Well-
Buying cars and radios and things.
I thought this
One
was-
fire truck buy a lot of cars.
I thought this was pretty a daunting report when I asked for it, when we even asked for it. I know how much hard work you two did. I know you did most of it. But but anyway, I would I don't really see any choice. I mean, some of this is painful to do, but I don't really see any choice. I mean, I would like this to be included in the council package, and I would like it to be a separate item and to call attention. And if you just put a little sticky note on it to please review this, because I am going to bring this up in a committee report. And I make a motion, we make all 5 recommendations to council.
I was gonna make the same motion.
And
So-
add to that, if you guys come up with, but
Well, I
just
think
thought to
this is
myself,
enough. I'm having a hard time catching my breath right now, because I'm the one's gonna have to eat a little crow here, because I reached out to some of the members of the Armory group and said, you know, if we could get a 10-year lease, you know, I can see a way that's possible if the taxpayers would want to do it. Well, I'm gonna ask, and you know, 2 or 3 of these people that I reached out to are very reasonable people. And I'm gonna ask for an appointment with them and sit down and show them what we're facing. And I don't see where you've got any choice but to move this medical center money into,
if you're gonna keep it in general fund,
Right.
keep water and sewer
right.
and sewer.
I don't see where you have much choice. I mean, with the escalating cost of fire apparatus and air packs and all that kind of stuff, I mean, so, I don't know how I would expand on this. Mr. Moncur, would you have anything to expand on these 5 recommendations?
Not at this time. I think the only thing we can't buy, and the one thing that we have to endure is the time element that's required to achieve this. Now, when I got on council crying finance and finance recovery to the people. I said, that's what I'm gonna be. And I started working with Philip, and While I don't understand all the technical terms, I understand the one thing that business succeeds on, and that's cash flow, and it's the same for us. 2 words, cash flow. You don't have it, you don't have a business. Now, Philip has put this together and asked for support, and we've given it to him in various degrees of support. Sometimes he got a lot, sometimes he didn't get as much, but the ideas are basically his. Now, I don't care, as I've said many times, you can call it reserves, you can call it depreciation, you can call it slush fund, I don't care what you call it. If you're putting some money in your side pocket for what you know you got coming at you, that's what this is. Now, it's taken us 7 years that I've been on council to get from where we couldn't write a check and the point when we could not get a financial institution willing to even give us a loan, to the fact that we can write a check now, we know it's gonna float, and we can do our planning. We have not completely achieved this. And the rest of this is just saying, all right, we've done 7 years of it. Now here is 5 or 10 more years right out in front, adding on to it. Because this recovery, just like you said a few minutes ago, it took us 20 years to get in the hole. You don't get out in less than that kind of time.
Well, that's a great point. My fear is that we still have this debt when we have, when we have to do it again, I just had to you speak of business. This is a corporate municipality. If you look it up, what is this? What is the town of Blackstone? It's a corporate municipality.
It's an entity.
Exactly. I just had to make the decision with my building. Do I want to spend $2 fixing it, or I want to spend $4 building a new one? Well, the way I looked at it, in 15 years, I've still got an old building. So that's my fear. My fear is that we're going to have to take on a major undertaking in a water, sewer, and treatment plant,
I feel like
we're still paying debt for the old one. So
I'd like to move to support your motion if this is not.
well, you can just second and it's done.
All right, good.
All right. Well, the motion carries 2-0. All right.
Did we support this?
Well, I wholeheartedly support it. I would like you, Mr. Manager, to make an appointment with Mr. Walter McOsborne and Colonel Tom and Janet Bonnell, and maybe the 5 of us could go over this with them. And I mean,
Let me give it to council Monday night.
yeah. And then
Yeah, we
after
get
that,
first one,
I would like to hear their residents of the town, and they have the same shoulders I do, burdening with this. And I'd like to hear what they have to say. So you spelled it out pretty specific to me. All right. Is there anything else under your
No.
financing plan?
That's all I have, and if you come up with, and there can be 1,000 more, put money aside for this or try to plan for that, but until we get
looks
these
like
reserve
this
and
is a-
depreciation funds up and going, I mean, it's pretty
Well,
much.
I have agreed with the mayor ad nauseum, his little catchphrase on concentrating on our core services.
Mhm.
And this looks like the bare minimum of action to support our core functions. Am I reading this wrong?
Water and sewer, police, fire. Now, like I said, how you time your fire truck purchases, and you may get a grant to take a ladder truck or paver ladder truck, and you hope that's the case. Man, you can chip a couple of these off, but it's still in the tens of millions of dollars of water lines and
You get a
debt.
good contribution made elsewhere, but you still got a hell of a bill set out in front of you.
And that's what you got. And there it is. And it has taken 7 years. Now, we got a little off course a couple of years ago, and I had to take from the reserve fund to make that bond payment because we didn't have enough set aside. But we're not doing that at all anymore. We're not having to borrow from the reserve funds at all. Okay? Water and sewer is still a little chippy, but I can tell you, we don't have to sit back when we need to buy a police car and take it out of the reserve fund and pay ourselves back. We don't have to do that anymore. So there is progress. in
There
the
is
front.
progress, but it's very daunting, and I can look at this, and I heard, and I don't mind saying in public, that you two worked on Columbus Day while your associates had the day off, and
Yeah, we were here.
So, and I can just tell by looking at this report how much work and effort went into it. But this is what I needed to see. And I hope my colleagues appreciate it as well. So move on to your check, if you have anything further.
I'm done.
If you'll move on to item number 2, check writing policy or bad check policy, or whatever you want to call it.
Tessie just sent this, and I think it was at the directions of council. What can we do? Because I think we had a pretty draconian policy about writing checks. And I think it'd come up recently, there've been some individual accounts where the bad checks have been written on multiple occasions, and it came up, and instead of getting into a big enforcement issue, I asked Gwyneth, and she said, well, that's the way we've been doing it. You know how that goes over. So we did have Tessie write up an ordinance, and really, it doesn't say you're not to take a check, but it does allow you to charge $50 instead of the current $35 for bad checks. Okay? I don't see a criminal penalty. I don't know if it's a crime to utter bad checks.
Well, I've always understood
Or the
that
issue.
it was.
Well, I don't think as I've talked to Tessie, I don't think it's a crime unless you intentionally or knowingly do it. And that's the
Well,
proof that has to be in there.
There's so much ambiguity in it.
I think you got to be able to prove that the person intended to defraud, I think is what
I
Tessie told me.
honestly don't understand and have never practiced. Why should we not be able to refuse taking a check from somebody who has proved to us that they have a bad history of writing checks and the check's not, now, I don't mind you standing here giving me a check. If I've got doubts about it, say, let me call your bank. Will this check clear?
Well, that was my question. Do
And
we
if
have
it'll
the cap?
clear, take it. And if it don't. I mean, there's nothing dishonest about that.
The only experience I have is it when I was calling people not to take the town's checks at one time. So I don't know what's legal, but
And what do you mean it's not legal?
no. I don't know if it's legal or not. But what I can tell you is what Tessie found in the state code, and the Dillon rule does permit you to charge $50 for each.
And that's it.
That's it that I see from Tessie. Now, is there more to it? We can ask Tessie if there's
$50.
more teeth that you can put in it.
$50 doesn't cut, not collecting your money.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be sorely disappointed that you've got to go back and engage her to find out if there's more. When I ask her to look into something, I want to know A to Z. You can pass that message along. I don't have the time, nor does the taxpayer, have to go back and ask a counselor at law to revisit an issue. When I want a brief, I want to know.
And this may very well be all the state
And
code
I need
permits
to
you
know
to
that.
do.
I need to know that. So that's what we're here for, to provide information to the council.
And,
I'm
I
so-
can call. I
I'm a
just don't
little-
know the answer to the
I'm
question.
agitated.
Okay.
So noted. Because what you've come up to us is just $15 additional fee, and that doesn't. I mean, I want to know. Can we verify funds? Can we, after a certain amount of times, can we require a certified check? I mean,
I did ask her about,
Oh, good.
could we require, if they wrote a bad check, could we require, okay, this check was bad, now you have to pay cash or cashier's check. She told me I could not find any authority for requiring cash payments if a bad check was written, according to the Code of Virginia.
What
So
did they-
I was trying to figure out
Back
how
to that
to,
Dillon rule.
But hold on a minute, hold on. That's assuming you need permission. Why do you need permission to require to somebody to give you a good check? Now, we accept checks, we accept good checks. We don't accept bad checks. Now, if you have a history of bad checks, and I call Mr. Banker, is this check good? And you say, no, sir, it won't make it. I'm gonna look at you and I'll say, listen, I'm very sorry, cash.
I hate to put an additional burden on the staff, but I'd like you to call around to some of our sister communities, and maybe find out what they do. Also, give VML a call. I'm sure.
They've got free legal advice too.
Right. So I'm sure this can't be just unique to Blackstone by any means. So can we get a little research on that before we go to council with this meaningless adjustment? In my opinion, $15 more. That's
We'll report on it to council on Monday,
right.
but I'll have more information.
Okay. All right.
That's all.
All right, any other business to come before us? And
But right now, I'm on, before we say, right now, we are telling people who have written us bad checks before that you have to pay cash.
She has in the past.
All
That's
right.
why we brought it to you.
So-
But there was nothing written down as to the
Oh,
policy.
yeah, but so we already have already
there's precedent there.
have precedence on.
Now-
I see no reason to change this, and if we have to.
Codify
by
it.
law.
Codify it.
That's right. I don't see any weakness in that position.
Well, I think what Jennifer just read to you is weakness that the state code does not authorize us.
But it
Does the
doesn't
state
say I
code
have to-
prohibit us from any
That's right.
action? That's the question for
Prohibit
VML.
us from just saying we're not going to accept your check.
What they do is they tell me I can't charge you $100.
That's exactly right. That's
They don't
what
say
you
I-
read
That's
to
what
me.
I'm saying.
They
What
don't
you
say
read to
I
me
can't
was,
charge you anything.
Or just say, I'm not going to take a check from you.
That's
Right.
right.
Thank you.
exactly.
You're-
We know what happens when you do write a bad check.
What did the
That's pretty
bank-
clear.
What did the bank say to us 7 years ago when we went to them for a loan?
You're awful nice, but we ain't going to lend you the money.
That's right, we don't want your check.
Right. Okay. Work on it.
I would do some more research before you broach the subject with council, because you're basically you're not giving them an adequate report, in my opinion. So,
We just literally received it 20 minutes before we
well,
walked in
then
here. So.
I think before we approach council, I think we need to do our due diligence. We need to contact VML, contact some sister communities. You object to any of this?
No.
And have some more information. I would feel very inadequate
And-
as chairman
And
presenting
in
this
the
to
mean-
council
and
at
in
this
the
point.
meantime, continue on with the precedents that we've set in the past.
Well, if you want to bring that up to council.
No,
to
I'm
co-
talking about until such time as we have a recommendation to make to council.
I'll leave that up to the purview of the manager. Anything else? I make a motion, we go in closed session to talk about personnel and personnel only. Second? We are now in closed session.